And the last category is polysaccharides. Poly obviously means many. So something more than 10, which has a carbohydrate which has a more than 10 simple or monosaccharides, it will be called as the polysaccharide. These polysaccharides are basically further divided into two categories. We have first one is the homopolysaccharide, second is the heteropolysaccharide. So homo means in which the similar or one kind of monosaccharide is repeating. It is a polysaccharide. So the monosaccharide units will be repeating itself. And examples we have starch, glycogen, cellulose, dextrin, etc. And in heteropolysaccharide we have glucosaminoGlycans or mucopolysaccharides, agar, pectin, hemicellulose, etc. Homosaccharides are basically further divided into storage and structural polysaccharides. So we will see the storage polysaccharides. The first one is starch. It's very important. It is a glucose polymer. That means this starch, it is a polysaccharide. It's made up of many monosaccharide units, and that monosaccharide unit is a glucose. Okay, and it is the principal food storage carbohydrate in plants. Starch is a food storage carbohydrate in plants, and it is a homopolymer of glucose units, and they are held together by the alpha glycosidic bonds. So this starch basically it consists of two polysaccharide components. One is water soluble and one is water insoluble. The water soluble component is known as amylose, and the water insoluble component is known as amylopectin. So we'll see it's basically on the base of the branching. You can see in the figure that amylose, it is a linear, or we can say it's unbranched. So unbranched or linear polymers of these glucose units, that is known as amylose. And if we have branching like in the amylopectin, and it has different linkages, alpha 1,4 or alpha 1,6, and this number comes from the it's based on, for example, we have two glucose units. The carbon number 1 that is next to the oxygen, that's also known as anomeric carbon, is forming glycosidic bond with the carbon number 4 of the second glucose unit. That's why we call it 1,4. Or in the amylopectin we can have 1,6. 1,6 means the glucose, the carbon number 1 of one glucose is forming bond, glycosidic bond with the carbon number 6 of the another glucose. So accordingly, based of whether it's branched or whether it's unbranched, we call it amylose or we call it amylopectin. And basically amylopectin, it consists of 80 to 85% of the total starch. And we have this glycogen, right? It's also known as, it's actually major reserve food in animals, right? And it's known as animal starch. When we eat food and it's broke down into glucose, so when we have enough glucose, and these glucose are stored in the form of glycogen, so that when we need it, when for example we are fasting or when we are exercising, we will need this glycogen as a energy source, because it will be broken down into glucose at that time. So it is a main storage polysaccharide in animals, and it has a 1,4 linkage or 1,6 linkage based on the branching, and it's known as animal starch. It's stored in the liver and muscles, right? And it has about 30,000 glucose residues and has a molecular weight of about 4.8 million. Okay, then this is the close look of the glycogen molecule, where we have shown that the alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkages, that is between the linear or unbranched structures, that is one carbon of one glucose and the fourth carbon of another glucose, and we have the branching. The branching starts from the it appears from the 1,6 glycosidic bond. The next one is cellulose, right? It's we know that it occurs extensively in plants, and it is the most abundant organic substance in the whole plant kingdom, right? It is a fibrous stuff. If we talk about the properties, it's water insoluble, and it's found in the cell walls of plants, particularly in stem, trunks, and the woody portion of the plant body. Okay, and it constitutes much of the mass of wood. Wood is basically cellulose, like we have paper or this cotton. It's a cellulose basically. And like amylose and the amylopectin and the glycogen, here we have this unbranched homopolysaccharide consisting of 10,000 to 15,000 D-glucose units. And what is the difference between the cellulose and the starch? That is the linkage. Here we have the cellulose, we have the beta 1,4 linkage, but in starch we have the alpha 1,4 linkage, right? And similarly we can have different types of one more important thing here we have to remember that uh, like we are able to digest starch but not the cellulose, but both are made up of glucose. So what is the reason? So here we can see the last line, it's very important that glucose residues in cellulose have beta 1,4 glycosidic bonds, but in starch that have alpha 1,4. So our body has enzymes that can only digest or only break those alpha 1,4, but not these beta 1,4 glycosidic bonds. So that's why our body is able to digest the starch but not the cellulose. And next we are discussing about the homopolysaccharides. Now comes the heteropolysaccharides, and I have briefly given here in the tabular form that there are many heteropolysaccharides, like we have glycosaminoglycan and we have, like for example, hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate, heparin, keratin sulfate, and it has different compositions and it has different tissue distribution. For example, hyaluronic acid, it is found in the connective tissue, vitreous humor, or the joint synovial fluid, and it acts, it has the function, all the, whether it's a homopolysaccharide or a heteropolysaccharide, every polysaccharide has different functions, and the function of this hyaluronic acid or this heteropolysaccharide is that it serves as the lubricant or the shock absorber, and it sometimes promotes the wound healing as well. Similarly, chondroitin sulfate, sometimes we take the supplements of this because if our joints, we have immobility in the joints, we can take hyaluronic acid supplement. Similarly, for cartilage is damaging, we can take the chondroitin sulfate supplements. So these chondroitin sulfate, basically they are found in the cartilage, bone, blood vessels, and they maintain the structure and shape of the tissues. Similarly, we have heparin, it is present in the blood, lung, liver, and it acts, as we all know, it acts as an anticoagulant. We have dermatan sulfate, we have keratin sulfate,